Okay, welcome to the webinar. This is what being a nude model and a stand-up comedian has taught me about being an executive producer of a cable access show by me, Robert Moran of Howland, Gorham, and Wolf Productions. So what we're going to take a look at, I've got several things here. So first of all, thank you and welcome. I'm glad to have folks here. And one of the things that I'd like to talk about initially is how we got here. So in terms of how we got here, one of the things I realized is that life is lived going forward, but it's understood looking backward. And these things that I'm going to share today make more sense, and I understand them better now looking backward than they did. I didn't see the pattern as I was going forward. So I've been a lifelong student of creativity and innovation. A Whack on the Side of the Head and other books about innovation and creativity really grabbed my attention when I was younger. And one of the things that I've been doing the last couple of years has been coaching creative people while writing my book. So I was working on a book called The Trauma-Informed Entrepreneur. It's available now as a podcast, as an audiobook on my podcast. And as I was doing that, I was paired up with somebody else who's another aspiring writer. And he and I were working and getting together and using the text of a book called The Artist's Way. And from using The Artist's Way, one of the things that became clear was that I had a real desire to be more of a communicator. So I launched the Innovate, Thrive, Create podcast. So that's available. It's up on Spotify. It's at 50 plus episodes right now. And it was one of the ways that I sought to be creative and to put myself out there to be seen and to be heard more. And that directly came from the work that this other person and I were doing on getting unblocked as creatives. In one of the sections of the book, it talked about something called being a shadow. And essentially, if you think about somebody who maybe is an architect, but they've always wanted to be a painter or in the fine arts directly, but they've been in architecture. So that person is considered being in the shadow. So they're a shadow artist. So when I did those exercises, one of the things that occurred to me is I've loved comedy ever since I was a young boy. I used to like watching it with my dad, different sitcoms and movies and things that were funny. Funny books, National Lampoon, Mad Magazine, things like that. And I started asking myself, I wonder if I am a shadow comic. And as I decided to explore that further, I mentioned it to some people, and they said there's an active, open mic scene here in Boston. And then that led me to take a couple steps, and eventually I did my first open mic June 28th of 2023. I also started to do drawing again. I had done drawing when I was younger. Enjoyed a book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And that was one of the things that had been dormant for many years for me. I started to draw again, and I went to some life drawing classes in Cambridge, which is near me in Boston. So life drawing, for those that don't know, is nude drawing. So nude models and then drawing them, they call it life drawing in the art world. And I did that a few times. That led me to actually starting doing life modeling. So my first life modeling gig was August 5th of 2023. So 2023 was a real turning point. And during that time, I was talking to a fellow comedian here in Boston, and they were interested in starting a cable access show at Arlington Cable Access, acmi.tv. Their idea was to do a sketch comedy and, writing sketches. And I visited, I loved the show. I loved the studio. I thought the show was a good idea, but then I decided to go in a different direction. And after the visit, I ended up writing up and pitching a show to the people at ACMI, to the operations director, Jeff Monroe, and he in turn pitched it to the executive director, Norm MacDonald. And one of the things they did was they said, okay, so in order to join ACMI, I needed to be either in work or live in Arlington. So I started Howland, Gorham, and Wolf Productions, registered the company there in Arlington, and then joined ACMI. And as I was looking at ACMI and looking at the organization, one of the things I found out about was ACM, right, the Alliance for Community Media. And it was right around the time of the ACM Northeast Conference. So I ended up going to the conference, really liked what I saw and heard there. And then I decided to join. I joined ACMI National, and then have been following the message boards for that. And that's how we got here today. So my takeaways thus far from being an executive producer, that's what we'll take a look at next. So the takeaways that I've gotten from nude modeling. So when I was getting into nude modeling, one of the things that helped me then, which also applied to my experiences now as an executive producer, is to listen to the call to be seen. So like I alluded to before, when I was doing the creative work with the partner, and the idea that maybe I'm an artist, and maybe there's something that I could do in terms of drawing once again. And I decided to go back and basically just listening to the call to take the next step. So seeking out the classes, going to them, and then thinking about what it would be like to be on the other side of the easel and to be the model for the group was something that was all these just sort of little ideas that came to me that I decided to follow up on. And I think that's also a great thing in terms of being an executive producer, is being open to creative input and being willing to perhaps do things that you haven't done before. Another thing for nude modeling was to ask for opportunities. So after I got the idea in my head about becoming a life model, then it was time for me to find out where the models were used in the Boston area, and then to find out how to locate the opportunities. So one of the things that I learned was that they typically at an art school or at a studio where they have life drawing, they will have somebody who's designated as the model coordinator. So once I found out about that, then what I did was I looked up their email addresses, and then I contacted the the model coordinator. And essentially the request is, I'm a life model in the Boston area. Would you please put me on your list of models? And that is one of the key things, to be in position to be chosen to model for a session, is to be on that list, because that's where the model coordinator goes to look to ask people if they're available on a particular day. So the asking for opportunities, I think, also translates directly to the executive producer experiences, to ask for the opportunity, to pitch the show, to do the show, to be on camera for other shows, to be a part of the community. But I think the key concept there is the asking, right? Asking for opportunities. Another thing from the nude modeling experience was also asking for recommendations. So asking for the opportunity gets me in the door, and then I do whatever I'm doing, and then asking for the recommendation. So at the first gig that I did, actually, it was a month-long pose, and it was for painters. And the way that works is it's the same pose for the whole 3 hours of that day, and then doing it, in this case, it was a Sunday, so every Sunday for a month, holding that same pose. And as I did that, I got to know the different artists that were painting me on breaks. And one of the ones that said, hey, would you like you're doing a great job, would you like a letter of recommendation? So I said, yes, I would like that. Please send that to me. And that person did. And then with that recommendation, it was a matter of repeating. So then I was able to contact the next place and to say to them, hi, I'm an experienced life model at this particular location in Boston. I have a letter of recommendation, and please add me to your list. And then I just kept doing that over and over again until I have Boston Figurative Arts Center, the Academy of Realist Art, Mass Art, the art school here in Boston, an individual artist named Joel Janowitz, and another individual artist named Rocco Ricci. And I've also modeled at Suffolk University. So from that humble beginning, it's grown out to be a real nice network of people. And the other thing that I've done, which I think is applicable to the executive producer role, is to keep in touch. So not only am I on their list, but periodically I'll reach out, ask them how they're doing, ask them when they're going to have in many cases, it's on a semester basis. So I'll ask them, when are they going to have their openings for the next semester? So I'm by keeping in touch, I think it helps me to stay top of mind. So those are all things that I picked up from the nude modeling experience that I think are directly applicable and have helped me as an executive producer. So one of the things that I've done is my individual Instagram is just my name, Robert B. Moran. And I've added to the bio, which now says creativity and performance coach, life model, stand-up comedian. And then my tagline for the creativity and performance coaching is, I help people see life as a fun game, then I help them win. So I label myself as a life model, as a stand-up comedian. And that's one of the things that I would recommend for people to do with their executive producer role, is to add that to their bio so that's a public part of what they do. Now, in my case, I have a separate Instagram for the show, which talks about me being an executive producer. And then the other thing I'll do is post on my Instagram in this case, the drawings, because it's a modeling gig. So you can see there the charcoal class, Joel Janos with the date. There's a snapshot of a drawing on an easel in the middle there. And then another thing I'll do is I do something called the model's eye view. And what I do there is I'm up on my model stand and I have my phone with me. I turn it on, I take a video, and I just panorama the artists, because the artists are always drawing and painting me, and I want to also let people know that the life modeling class where I'm at is vibrant, and look at all the people that are here that are drawing, they're together, and that's a way to encourage people to go and attend the session, which helps the school because then they have more students and more participants. So that idea of thinking about how can I use social media to give back is also something that I think helps me with the life modeling, but I also think it helps with my show, because that's something I do as well. Is the people that come on and do the comedy, we create a video for them doing their performance, and we send it to them. They're able to put that on their social media, and it's tagged with the show Instagram. Okay, so some lessons from stand-up. So one of the ones is the value that I've gotten from speaking the intentions to others. So in my case, when I was thinking about, am I a shadow comic? The idea was, well, I'm just going to say that to a group of people. Hey, I've been doing this book. I think I might be a shadow comic, and I'm thinking about, trying out going to an open mic. And just by saying that out loud, somebody that I didn't know was involved with comedy came up to me during the break and said, that they're also in stand-up comedy, and that there was a list available of all the different open mics in the Boston area. So that idea of speaking the intentions to others, not necessarily knowing how and when and if anybody there can do anything with it, but just the act of putting it out there. Some people say, putting it out to the universe, but, putting it out to the people that I know actually turned out to be very helpful. So when I looked at the list, the second point there about opportunity might be nearby. In my case, I live in a part of Boston. The neighborhood is called Allston. It's out by Boston University, BU. And it turned out that I was looking at the list on a Wednesday, and on the list it said there was an open mic in Allston on Wednesday, and it was actually just a few blocks from me. I was able to walk to it. So I think the other lesson from the stand-up that's applicable for me with the executive producing, and hopefully helpful to the people that are listening to this and watching it, is that opportunity might be nearby. And by speaking the intentions and letting people know what's going on and what you might need, I think is a great way to get more people. So one of the things in my case has been, how do I get people to be show crew for the show? And the show is taped on the first and third Tuesdays of the month, so I know when it's going to be. And people that have come to the show, one of the things we do is we put out a clipboard. We ask people to sign up if they would like us to keep in touch with them, either to be crew or to be future audience members, because we actually have a live audience for the comedy show. And those people that have come to me have been right nearby, and they literally, because the station's in Arlington, many of them live right in the town of Arlington, so it's very convenient for them. And the opportunity for them and the need of the show met and married up, and has become very helpful to developing a crew that's there on a regular basis. The next one, seeking guidance from experienced others. So one of the things was, when I went to the first open mic that Wednesday night, I went, but I just went as an observer. And then I did taking a small step. I'm sitting in my place. The open mic is right nearby. I'm considering doing it. The idea of a recon and just going and seeing what it's like, getting a feel for the, in that case, the bar, it was a bar show, getting a feel for the bar, or going to visit, a studio, or going to visit a remote location where you're going to be shooting, just getting a feel for it is a nice mini step, I think, to get acquainted with it. And it gives me courage and some experience when I go back to actually do it for real, that I know exactly where things are. I know exactly what it looks like because I've been there before. So I went the first time and I witnessed it. I saw it. It was a good experience. And then what I did was between then and the following week, when it was time to go back and actually perform, I sought guidance from experienced others. So in my case, what I did was I went to YouTube and Googled like stand-up comedy. And I Googled, writing a comedy routine. One of the things you might notice, one of the things that's been, very common is what they call the tight five. And the tight five is just a, industry jargon for a 5-minute set. That's what the five means. And tight means that all of the extraneous things have been removed. So what I did was I went to the experienced people on YouTube and I found quite a few people and quite a few videos about writing the routine. So I think the carryover for that in the executive producing role has been for me to go and seek out people that have done shows before. So one of the things that was very instrumental to me was when Jeff Monroe, showed me around the studio at ACMI. He mentioned, well, there was a previous show that we had. It was a long running show for like 10 years. It was a variety show. They had a live audience, and he showed me some of the videos. And by going to Jeff and asking for ideas, going to the production manager at the time, Katie Chang, and seeking their guidance, it was definitely very helpful. So, for example, I didn't know about editing with Adobe Premiere Pro, and by asking Katie and sitting with her, I was able to get some more information, and I was really able to get a lot of guidance from experienced people. So that's another thing that's been a takeaway for me, which has been very valuable. In terms of stand-up, so I also have my stand-up thing. So there on the right, that's me performing with the mic and the little card. And being out there, but then putting things up on social media, it's also something that's helped me to be seen and to let people know and to reinforce, to myself and others, oh, I am a stand-up comedian. I do stand-up comedy. Here it is. Because sometimes I've heard the expression imposter syndrome can sometimes derail people. So this is a way for me to confirm that. And then what I also have is a YouTube channel now. This is the one personally for me as a coach. But on there, you can see I have a playlist called Bob Doing Stand-Up. And on there, right now, there's 23 videos of me doing stand-up various places, various times, around the city of Boston and at the Portland, Maine Comedy Festival. So by doing that, it also gives people a way to check up, and see and validate the claims that I'm making. And I think having social media for the show that you're executive producing or that you hope to produce is a very important part of it. Okay, so next up is the idea of a round robin. And what that is basically just asking a question and giving people an opportunity to chime in. So what are your observations about the executive producer role? So your observations that what you've seen, maybe others, how they've been as an executive producer, or for yourself, if you've actually served in an executive producer role, or if you're thinking about it and you haven't done it yet. So your observations, your thoughts about the executive producer role. And what I'd like you to do, if you're willing, is to send an email. My email is robert@hgnw.com. So that's robert@hgnw.com. And what that is, that's Howland Gorham, the word and spelled out ANDW.com. Okay. And final thoughts. So the final thoughts that I have that I'd like to share, one is if you like this video, you like the idea of executive producer, materials and encouragement, please share that with others. And my guess is that there are many shadow executive producers at your station and at other stations, people that are creative, right? They have an idea that they'd like to create a show that's maybe new and different, that it expresses them creatively, and that they could conceivably go from being in the shadow to actually become an executive producer at your station. And then going forward from here, so looking forward for me, one of the things that I'd love to see happen more, and I'm going to be doing personally, is inviting existing executive directors to attend workshops like this and other workshops that I have in mind, getting together to talk about experiences, maybe obstacles that people are facing, maybe as a group, we can, talk through or work through those issues together for fellow executive directors. And also the second thing is attracting more people to produce. So going forward, I'd love to see more people that haven't produced yet to become producers. And then for those that do decide, I'm training and encouraging that new crop of executive producers. There's the contact info. So the one personally is Robert B. Moran. That's when I showed you some of the screenshots from there. And then the one for the show is called the Comedy Gold Secret Show with Robert Moran. So that Instagram is Comedy Gold Secrets. Hope to see you at the convention here in Boston. That's going to be June 24th and 26th this year in 2025. Thank you.